Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we've got the pleasure of watching Porushka playing in the brand new Soviet Tier 10 medium tank. It is the K91. Now this vehicle has a bit of a personality disorder. It doesn't really know whether it wants to be a medium tank or whether it wants to be a tank destroyer. Hopefully that's something that we're going to be able to delve more deeply into in this video. But you decide. You let me know in the comments whether you think this thing needs to be played more like a support TD or whether it needs to be played more like a medium tank. Now, the K91, when it first went onto the test server, was in a real bit of a state. Its gun was great, but its gun wasn't that much better than other Soviet medium tanks that you would justify losing a fully traversable turret, a significant amount of hull armor, and just the flexibility you need to be the medium tank on the battlefield. However, in the second version of the 1.0.2 test server, Wargaming gave this vehicle quite a few nice buffs. Firstly, it has more gun depression over the side of the tank, up to 9 degrees now. That's a first for a high-tier Soviet medium tank. And furthermore, they also further increased the rate of fire. Now it fires 9.52 rounds a minute with 320 alpha. That is incredible. I mean, even the best of the Soviet medium tanks, well, at least the freely available ones, are firing just over 9 rounds a minute. To have that extra half a round a minute can make a significant difference, which pushes the damage per minute of this vehicle to 3,047 before you even start to have like an exceptionally skilled crew, before you're using a premium consumable, or if you're using a gun rammer and vents on the tank. Combine this with 410 meters view range, and with an excellent crew, you can get really high up without even having to use coated optics on this tank, which further allows you to use vents and to boost the other little aspects of this vehicle and maximize the DPM. Now the accuracy on the tank at .33 makes it kind of go very easily into a sniping role, which Porushka is kind of embracing at this moment. He doesn't want to be at the front, because while this vehicle does have 140 millimeters of frontal hull armor, and that sounds really good, right? It has pretty much no angling over the front, and so even 200 millimeters of penetration are easily going to go through the front of this vehicle. Now, one of the things that it can do with a rear-mounted turret like this and 60 millimeters of side armor is you can side scrape. Although the K91 has another bit of an issue, and that's because if we look above it, there's a plate here and here, and the kind of like the flaps above the tracks, the shields, I guess, for there, aren't actually where the hitbox is. And so when you side scrape in this vehicle, if you don't angle your armor enough as you're coming around the corner, then people can actually just shoot straight on the corner of your hull, a bit like on a Type 5 Heavy. Although this part is only on the upper part of the hull, and the lower part is still angled in and will be pretty much an auto ricochet. So it's a very complex armor model. Even the turret armor on this vehicle is so much worse than all of the other Soviet medium tanks at Tier 10, and it has kind of a cupola on the left and a cupola on the right that are really easy shots, and if you do over-angle the turret, then you're going to have an issue there. But one thing you might be noticing is that Porushka is not really giving very much lead here, and that's not because they're making a mistake and they're getting lucky with their shells just flying true to the target. Is because this tank has crazy shell velocity. 1,700 meters a second? Yes, it is. I know that there were some premium rounds at one stage on the Object 277, which have since been removed, that had, I think, 1,800 meters a second shell velocity. But this 1,700 meters a second, you basically almost don't have to give lead. And when I was playing this vehicle on release day, at least for me, when I first had a chance to play on Thursday, I noticed that you can auto-aim and just keep holding down that mouse button and shooting rather fast tanks on the move. Now you're noticing one of the most bizarre things about the vehicle, and that is the lack of a fully traversable turret. In fact, the turret can only be turned round to about here and here. And if you want the exact values are 110 degrees to the left and 110 degrees to the right. So that means that if you want to run away from your opponents, you can't actually turn your turret all the way around to be able to engage them, which is absolutely massively frustrating. Alright, Porushka is now fighting the other new Tier 10 Soviet vehicle, and that is the Object 277, who seems to know that they were going to die there, and so they saluted Porushka and said, well, you got the best of me this game, buddy. Hopefully you're going to be able to go on to win this one. Or maybe he's hoping for his team to be able to get some revenge for him. We'll have to try and figure that out. So, with the crazy damage per minute of this vehicle, the highest of any of the high-tier medium tanks, when you can get into this scenario, when you have a tank destroyer in the side, the rate of fire just feels absolutely king. So definitely one for the argument of this is kind of more of a tank destroyer. But as we can see, Porushka hasn't bounced a shell this game. He's up to a serious amount of damage, but we're going to have to see whether he's going to be able to ricochet any shells later on, because, you know, while the armor on this vehicle, it's not very well angled in some places, the angling in other parts is rather good, so we'll just have to wait and see. Alright, Porushka is now firing some heat rounds here into the 257, I guess because he's engaging at long range, so he wants to have the extra penetration. But as we can see, the shell velocity on the premium rounds is much lower than the standard rounds. So he actually misses the Object 268 version 4, which is a little bit awkward for him there, you know. It's quite tricky to go between 1,700 meters a second, dropping down all the way to 1,000 meters a second for those heat shells. And I take vastly more APCR shells on this tank than I do heat, because it's got the best penetration of any tier 10 medium tank as well at 276. To put that into perspective, that's the same as the Gorilla 15, I think, on its standard rounds, or the Yak Tiger. And while it doesn't have amazing overpowered premium rounds like you would have on a Yak, well, not overpowered, but incredibly good, I guess, on the Yak Tiger, like 257 millimeters of penetration, 330 is still great for dealing with thickly armored plates. Alright, so even though Porushka is on 5,200 damage and 4 kills here, he is still going to find himself in a 1 versus 5 situation. And oh, those are some healthy tanks. How is he going to get through this one? A T10 with 1,800 hit points? Well, when the T10 doesn't bother to aim on the front of your vehicle, that's a really good start. Now Porushka gets to use that whopping DPM advantage, pretty much about 50% more than the enemy T10 right now, to already put 3 shells in. And it looks like the K91 is okay for face hugging. Now I'm not sure if Porushka meant to do this, but he actually managed to avoid an Object 705 shell from directly behind him. But oh no, just YOLO's in a heat round there on the upper plate of the T10, unable to go in. But amazing that he was able to avoid that Object 705. And face hugging this T10 seems to be working out very well, as the T10 has failed to penetrate him 3 shells in a row. The 705, however, did manage to go straight through. And now Porushka needs to turn his tank around, or is he going to try and face? What is he going to do? And he bounces an Object 268 version 4, allowing him to finish off the 705 to the side. And now this is where having the flexibility of a medium tank comes in great, well, very handy here for the K91, and that is that he can turn his vehicle, he can double track the 268 version 4 and lock him in place to be able to finish him off and make him look rather silly. Wow, what an engagement that was. I nearly ran out of breath. Oh my word. 3 Soviet vehicles all dealt with one by one, and it's kind of in the meta at the moment, is it, all of these Soviet tanks? But you got to go with it if that's where it's... Well, do you have to go with it? I don't know. I'm not saying that you have to play Soviet vehicles at the moment. In fact, I don't actually think the K91 is going to be even in the same league as the 268 version 4 was. Well, not that it ever should be when you think about it, because the 268 version 4 was the most overpowered tier 10 tank of all time. And well, we'll just have to wait and see about how the K91 and the 277 does with general release, with win ratios. It's going to be really exciting to start checking them out in the next couple of weeks to find out whether Wargaming has hopefully learned from the whole disaster that was the 268 version 4. Anyway, that engagement was absolutely mental. But Porushka, now down to 553 hit points, still has his work cut out for him, because the Lerva and the ST1, according to his team, and good information there from the Leopard if it's correct, that's one of the most useful things you can do. Not spam the map, not become some kind of armchair general, but if the player who's carrying you asks for some kind of information, and maybe you know because you've remembered, or you've got some kind of modification, or you've just been watching the amazing gameplay that's going on, then just providing that information can help the player. So good stuff. Now Porushka has fired a huge amount of ammunition so far this game. He's done 8,000 damage and now has 4 APCR shells and 2 heat shells remaining. So that should be enough to deal with the ST1 and the Lerva, unless they manage to start bouncing a lot of shells. Now, with 553 hit points, he should be able to take a shot from the ST1, but he's only going to be able to get hit by the Lerva twice. But then again, considering how much better his rate of fire is than the Lerva, he should be able to shut him down, and that's a great help. 242 hit points. The Lerva goes right through the front of the vehicle. Unsurprising there with the weak hull armor on the front of this tank. Now down to 226, but his kill secured there on the Lerva means that Porushka is now up to 8 kills and over 8,000 damage. And there's the ST1. Good information there from the Leopard. He's got 547 hit points, which means that unless Porushka rolls extremely low 2 times, he should be able to finish him off with 2 remaining shells. So with 5 kind of combined rounds between the APCR and the heat here, not too much pressure for Porushka. Now Porushka seems to be thinking, should I go to the middle of the map right now? And then looks like they basically decide that they don't have time. Now there's no way they were trying to convince the ST1 that they were going north, because they were not spotted about 10 seconds ago. So I think they've just basically decided, probably not going to be able to spot the ST1 from the center. Don't really have enough time to mess around here. Let's try and approach the ST1 from the middle. Well, the middle from the north of these alleyways. Okay, there's 3 alleyways to choose from. Now this is kind of a bit of a roulette moment. Is the ST1 looking down this alleyway? Oh, okay, so Porushka's deciding to reverse side scrape around this corner here to hopefully find the ST1. Unable to do so, but because it's an encounter, he's still got nearly 2 minutes to be able to find this ST1 before they're able to cap out. Okay, so ST1 last spotted just behind the Abbey. Porushka coming round the corner slowly but surely. Are they going to be on your right? Doesn't look like Porushka thinks so. Porushka must have been able to eliminate that opportunity from the center. Now coming round the corner. The ST1 is there. Okay, is the ST1 aiming at Porushka? No, they're not. Right in the side of the turret. Oh no, but the ST1's turning the hull around the side. Oh! Okay, not too bad. Keep calm. Put one in the lower plate. And another ricochet from a heat round there from the ST1 enables Porushka to stay in the game for long enough to shut him out of the game and to take down a 1 versus 5 carry. So there's definitely a few things that we found out about the K91 here. Firstly, while the armor on the front is definitely not very well angled, the profile of the vehicle does allow you to face hug very well. And while the armor on this tank is not going to be even in the same league as something like an Object 430U, it seems to be enough to take your chances to enable the tank to use that wild damage per minute. So Porushka uploaded this with the hashtag title super lucky. Yeah, I think so. After I don't think I managed to bounce nearly as many shells in my K91 over an evening of play as you, but there's no doubt that there was a huge amount of skill to go with the luck, and you have to have that if you're going to have these kind of carries at tier 10, right? The one that everybody wants, the Kolobanos medal for standing alone against at least 5 opponents, the Radley Walters medal for that 9th kill, a Defender's medal for protecting the cap circle, a high caliber for the near 9,000 damage dealt. But unfortunately, Porushka paid for it. That is a disgusting resupply of 40,000 credits for those premium consumables, 124,000 credits for the ammunition, which means that they lose a disgusting amount, even with a premium account. And that's because you've got to take into account that with this low alpha damage of 320, even the standard shells on this tank cost 1,150. That is very expensive indeed, and with such a wild rate of fire and a 4,800 credit heat round cost, this can be a very expensive vehicle to play indeed. Is it going to be the new kind of like heat noob of tier 10? Well, probably not, because I think the standard rounds on this tank are very nice, and I just don't think that you need nearly as many heat rounds as were fired in this replay. But once again, I think we're just going to have to wait and see about the profitability of the K91, and I'm very interested to see what the win ratio comes out for this tank and also the Object 277. Anyway, Porushka, congratulations to you, and thank you so much for uploading this awesome game on the WOT Replays website for the community to enjoy. This one was very tense for me, hence why I wanted to showcase it on this channel, and hopefully all of you enjoyed this video. If you did, give the video a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give the video a thumbs down. And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, it's time for another World of Tanks Tank Tree Showcase on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, and this week 433 of you voted, and the winner is the Object 277, the brand new tier 10 Soviet heavy tank with 36 votes. So come along right now as I start at tier 1 and work my way up towards tier 10 so you can see if this new line is worth grinding, or alternatively, if you already have the vehicles, and you might do if you've been stocking up some experience in the T10, maybe pick up a few tips and tricks along the way. So I'm really looking forward to seeing as many of you as possible right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.